Last thing you need is this checklist going off.
Hi, I'm Juliana, and I'm a representative from the University of Manitoba's Career Services, and I'm here to welcome our guest speakers today. So this morning, Erin Jenkins, coupled with Kiana Scott, will be presenting on how to build support capacity and remotely support workers. Erin is a Building Blocks project coordinator who has worked with Inclusion Winnipeg since February of 2020. Inclusion Winnipeg is an organization dedicated to enhancing the lives and status of people living with intellectual disabilities, supporting families, and advancing human rights and inclusivity within communities. Erin focuses on a project in this group that remotely supports individuals with intellectual disabilities in the workplace. And alongside Erin is Kiana Scott, who will be presenting her personal story on as a person with autism in the workforce. So please give a warm welcome to Erin and to Kiana.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to come to our presentation today. We are going to start with Kiana and hear her story. You guys can hear a little bit on how she got tied with us and how she got going with our app. I'll invite Kiana Scott.
Hello everybody, good morning. My name is Kiana Scott and I've been a co-worker at IKEA for the past 6 years. I'm currently studying broadcasting media at Herzing College. I'm also autistic. My mom and dad, both from Winnipeg, but moved to Edmonton the day after they got married. My dad got a good job in Edmonton, and so they left their family in Winnipeg and moved to Alberta. Mom was really sad that she had to leave all our family here in Winnipeg because they didn't know anybody from Edmonton, so it was just the two of them. And the 6 months after they got married, my mom got pregnant with me, and she was really excited to have a baby. She knew it would be hard to live in a city without her family or friends to help her, but she was sure it was something she would learn how to do. Right from the time I was born, my mom knew there was something different about me. When I was about a year old, she went to my doctor and tried to explain to them that she wanted me to be assessed for something. The doctors told her that since she was a first-time mom, that she was being overly worried like all first-time moms were. But she regularly took me to the doctor because I wasn't developing the same way most other babies my age were. I would sometimes scream and bang my head for hours because I didn't like the clothes I was wearing. I would throw up when she fed me foods that were crunchy. She wouldn't take me to the park because being on the swings or a slide would make me upset. Mom would have to spend the rest of the day trying to get me to stop crying. Any loud noises would make me cry for hours. And lots of the times, my mom thought my brother and I were deaf because when she would call our names, we never looked at her. Her best friend, Heather, told her that I had the same developmental milestones as her nephew did. So that made my mom feel a little bit better. Then one day, Heather called and told my mom again that her nephew had just been diagnosed with autism. My mom was really scared and was upset, but relieved at the same time. She finally had the answer she was looking for. Just had to convince everyone else what it was. The next time she went to the doctors actually listened to her. And based on what my mom told her, we were referred to Glen Rose Hospital. From the moment my mom became my biggest supporter and advocate, fighting for anything she felt I needed. My brother and I were at Glen Rose Hospital doing 2 full days of tests on speech pathologists, occupational therapists, audiologists, psychiatrists, and psychologists. She also had to answer hundreds of pages of documents about my mom and dad's family history, as well as anything related to my mom's pregnancies with both me and my brother. After all of that, on Halloween 2001, my dad, my brother, and I were all diagnosed with autism. Being diagnosed with autism back then was really different than it is now. It also really is different depending on where you live in Canada. My mom said we were really lucky to live in Edmonton because they were further ahead of any province when it came to giving children on the spectrum what they needed. At a much earlier age, in order to try and give them the best chance, even though they had better supports and some of the best programs to help, the prognosis they gave my mom was really bad. The specialist told my mom we would never speak, We wouldn't be able to function past the grade, graduate from high school, get jobs, get married, or even have kids. They also told my mom that the best thing for me and my brothers to put us in some group home when people were more equipped to help us deal with our autism. The minute that they said that, my mom decided that they were wrong and she was going to do whatever she needed to make us successful as possible. She wanted to prove the specialists wrong. You think that after having diagnosed that young would be helpful and that we would start to get the help we needed, right? And right away. But mom still had to fight really hard, especially for me, because when I was a girl, I didn't fit into all the guidelines that specialists used for autism at that time. They had certain things that they were sure there were autistic symptoms, and I didn't fit into them really well. So they diagnosed me with PDD-NOS. I also had more severe delays and issues than my brother. So they were more concerned about figuring out what was really wrong with me. My brother and I both had severe receptive expressive language, thanks mom, delays and severe fines and gross motor skill delays, ADHD, anxiety disorders, as well as a few other things that go along with autism. My mom says we were lucky to be living in Edmonton at the time because they had programs in schools for many different people with disabilities. She enrolled us in schools that were exactly what we needed. I attended Tevye Miller Heritage School, which was the school for children with severe speech and language delays. My classroom had an SLP/OT psychologist, 2 EAs, and a teacher in each classroom. I got one-on-one support with specialists every day. They also had specialists that came to my house regularly to help my mom learn how to help me with my different disorders. But because I was a girl, I didn't fit into the autism categories perfectly. So Dr. Hapshin, my doctor at Glen Rose Hospital, kept telling my mom that they would probably be able to help better figure out what the right diagnosis for me was a little longer than the specialists worked with me. These were really frustrating years for my mom. I don't remember these days, so when my mom talks about them, I always feel really bad. I didn't mean to do the things I did. Every day I would have meltdowns, and that would sometimes be about 15 minutes or 2 hours longer or more. I would hurt myself, my mom, throw anything I could, pick up, even destroy my house. My brother used to hide in the closet in the cupboards because I was scared of that bad, and I felt terrible for that. But even then, my mom spent all that time watching me and trying to figure out what was making me act this way. I started to notice that when my schedule changed, even if she gave me new food to drink, if the wind was blowing in the leaves, the toilet flushed, or even if mom was running water, I would start to scream for hours. Sometimes she had to call my dad home from work because I was so strong and my mom was so beat up, she just needed a 15-minute break to catch her breath so that she could eat something and get some new strength to deal with my meltdowns again. I loved being at Tevye Miller, and my mom loved to come and watch the specialists help me and stay to watch and see how she could help me at home. She even started to try to use PECS to help me communicate better. Even though I could say words, I just used to repeat everything my mom said back to me. And if she couldn't figure out what I wanted, she couldn't even ask me to point because I didn't know how to. We had to learn together how to figure out what I wanted. That's when my mom started to see something that not even the doctors had noticed before. When she watched me and 2 other girls in my class, she noticed that even though we didn't fit into the definitions of autism, it didn't mean that we weren't autistic. She started wondering if maybe just maybe autism looked a little bit different in girls than in boys. So the next time we went to see Dr. Hapshin, she told her what she noticed. Dr. Hapshin started doing more research and studying and finally saw that I did actually have autism. It was just different than the way boys would have autism. I was at Tevye Miller until I was in 2nd grade. Then I went to a regular school. That was really hard for me because even though I wasn't a neurotypical, I still couldn't tell that I was different than everybody else. I couldn't do the things I could. I couldn't even learn the way I could. I couldn't even communicate the way they did. Being at a regular school was even harder for me because even teachers and EAs didn't really know enough about autism to know that I wasn't trying to be bad, I just didn't know any better. At the beginning of each year, my mom gave me fidget toys to use in school because I stimmed a lot. She would also warn my teachers about my meltdowns and what triggered them, and tell her to call them if I had one, because I could hurt them. The teachers didn't take my mom seriously because I was so little. One day, the teacher decided to take my fidget toys away from me because she thought they were toys and I shouldn't be allowed to have them at school. My teacher put them in her desk, and it made me ask for them and when I needed them, even though I didn't know when I needed them. So instead of asking her, I took them. I know when I needed them, so it couldn't be that hard, right? I had meltdowns when my teachers took them away from me and she couldn't control me. The teacher called my mom the next day telling her that I had a meltdown because she disciplined me because I was stealing. My mom came to the school and found that the teacher had taken my fidget balls and wondered what they should do about it. My mom explained to the teacher that I had a meltdown because the teacher had taken my fidget balls away and that I didn't steal anything. She told the teacher that she had stolen from me. That was the day my mom had started to teach me how to advocate for myself. Someone wasn't fair to who I was, an autistic person. It was okay for me to speak up and say, I'm not wrong, you are. You are being unfair to me and people like me. The schools in Edmonton were the best for elementary school, for kids with special needs, but they didn't know what to do with middle school or high school kids because they just assumed we couldn't graduate, get jobs, or have any kind of productive life. In middle school, I was in a program that was for kids with autism in a regular school. We were supposed to do the same work as all regular kids. We even wrote exams, but nobody knew how to teach us and what we needed to learn in the way we could understand. Me and my friends had fun together, but our teachers didn't teach us very much because she didn't know how to. By the time I was able to tell my mom what was going on in my head, what my autism felt like, sounded like, and how people, even my mom, couldn't understand what we were going through, she really listened and learned because she became my EA in school. She rewrote some of the school textbooks at a level that an autistics in my class could actually learn about the stuff we needed to learn. We actually learned and understood about Aztecs in the Middle Ages and Renaissance, even about the Japanese history. Not only that, we also passed all our exams, even though none of us could read or understand anything past the third grade level. That's when I knew I could do anything. During this time, my dad found out that IKEA was thinking of building a store in Winnipeg. My dad was the manager there for about 13 years, and when we heard that Winnipeg might be getting a store, they wanted to go back home. They wanted us to be around our family, especially my Oma. Other than my mom, my Oma was the most important person in my life. My dad worked all the time and traveled a lot, so I didn't really know him that well, but my Oma took classes and asked my mom a ton of questions to help her understand how to love us and help us even more. So when Mom found out IKEA might be coming to Winnipeg, she told my dad we had to go home and find a way to make it happen. Dad worked on it and found IKEA was definitely coming to Winnipeg, but it would be 2 years before they were going to build the store. From the day my mom found out, she started talking to me about moving back to Winnipeg every single day with me and my brother. She talked about what it would be like living there, how we would get to see Oma and Opa every day, and all the things that made Winnipeg so much different and so much colder than Alberta. The more Mom talked about it, the madder and sadder I got. I thought about the changes leaving my friends and how scary it was going to be. I mean, I wasn't expecting to leave my home. I started having meltdowns and about at least once a month. Dad used to get angry with my mom telling her we shouldn't have told her we were moving. We could have waited until we were getting ready to leave. But my mom thought it was the best option to go for. She told Dad she knew that what she was doing and she just needed to trust her. Then one day in April in 2012, we moved to Winnipeg. My brother, Malachi, Mom, and I got on a plane and we moved to Oma and Opa's house until Dad could meet us in June. Since Mom was our EA, she helped us to finish our Edmonton school year in Winnipeg. My dad finally came to Winnipeg and he saw that Mom was right. When we got to Winnipeg, it wasn't a big change for me anymore. Mom and I talked about it and what would it be like for so long that I wasn't scared, I didn't have meltdowns, and I was excited to be with my family. I had meltdowns. I advocated for myself and taught my mom how to teach me to be okay so that when I moved to Winnipeg, I I was actually happy to be here. I wasn't freaking out, and I was ready for it. My mom was so proud that I had learned how to tell her what I needed to do to make me feel safe and okay with being who I am. Starting in high school in Winnipeg was very scary for me, like change always is, even today. But even with my PECS schedule, my self-talks, and telling my mom how I was feeling made it easier for me to cope. Since I was in high school, my mom decided it was time for a change in my fidgets. While my koosh balls and toys were okay as a kid, I was embarrassed to have toys to fidget on as a teenager. I told my mom I wanted to find things to let me stim, but didn't make me feel like a baby. I also was trying to figure out what kind of autistic adult I wanted to be. I loved so many things from my childhood, but my mom and dad tried to tell me that those things were for babies and I needed to grow up, and that I needed to find other ways to cope with my autism. It was really frustrating to me, and I got angry with my mom and dad because a lot of the things I loved as a kid comforted me and were important to me. They really made me feel like I was who I was, and it really helped me to show people how to understand me. That's when I got started with TikTok. I wanted to use social media to talk about autism and to help people understand who we are and how we think. I told her she taught me how to speak for myself and that it would mean more to me for her to teach me how the world with autism would spoke for me. I also told her that she couldn't really understand how I felt or lived because she was a neurotypical. Mom told me it was cute and hoped I would get 150 followers, and then I decided I wanted to use my love of Thomas the Tank Engine, Disney cosplays, and so much more, and all other things from my childhood to explain to people with autism that this is who we are and we shouldn't have to change for anybody. 3 years later, I had 30,000 followers, and people from all around the world were texting me, messaging me, telling me that their children loved my videos. They wanted me to keep my message about autism alive and teach the world about autism and how we shouldn't have to hide who we are. My mom went from being a skeptic to my biggest supporter. I had haters and bullies attack me online. I had my account banned more than once, but I never gave up. I needed the world to know that who we are as autistics. We were not freaks with emotions. We were not stupid, and even though some of us can't talk, it doesn't mean we don't understand every single word you say, good or bad. We're not less different. Then it came time for me to graduate, because when I was diagnosed, my mom told me I was allowed to stay in school till I was 21. But I didn't want that. I wanted to graduate at 18 with my friends. My mom even talked to my resource teacher how arranging for me to stay in high school until 21. Like I said, I told my mom that was not happening. I was not going to stay in school till I was 21, and I wanted to graduate with my friends. And Mom said it would be really hard work, but I didn't care. I wanted to show everybody I could do everything they said I couldn't. And guess what? I graduated at 18 with all my friends, all my credits, and did exactly what I said I would do. On my graduation day, my mom cried and told me she was proud of me. And I told her, Mom, you did it. You're my Wonder Woman. Mom said no, but I told her she taught me how to fight for and advocate for myself and speak for those kids who nobody would ever listen to or if they couldn't speak themselves. After high school, I knew I wanted to continue school, but I didn't know what I wanted to study. We got into programs that gave me work, but they were a bad fit because of the company. I worked for wanted to help, but it didn't want to support someone of special needs. That's when my dad stepped in and had me apply to IKEA. IKEA was a big part of my life since I was born, because my dad always worked there. I really wanted to be happy. I was really happy when they hired me. It was hard though, because like many schools I went to, they didn't understand autism either, or how to help me better at my job. I struggled for a while, but then one day my manager and second mom, Janice, talked to my mom about an app. She said that it was something new and that she thought it might be able to help me with my jobs at work, help me to focus. Mom talked to me about the app and I said yes right away. I would love to try anything to make my life easier. I would be one of the first few people to try it. Erin, Janice, and my mom and I had a few meetings trying to figure out what it does, how it works, and other things. But I really wanted to try it. And it was hard at first, but I can tell you that this app really changed my life. It's supposed to be just for work, but I use this app now for everything. It only took a few weeks for my mom to see the differences in my life using this app. I started using it for my scheduled routines of work. When my mom saw it working at work, it started encouraging me to use it at home too. It changed my life, my family's life. I used it for everything, home, work, and school. And the best part, it worked for anybody on the spectrum. It worked for verbal and nonverbal, whether you can read or not. You can make it as simple or detailed as you need it to be. With this app, Erin and Janice helped me to see what my mom believed to be true. You can do anything you want to if you have the right tools. And people tell me you can too. Janice, Erin, and my mom and my dad were right. I can do anything I want to. I wasn't sure I could do college, but I didn't know if I could have effect on anybody. But about a year ago, my best friend Stephanie and I wanted to create a hashtag that would let autistic people show their love, their abilities, their likes and dislikes, and not be ashamed of who they are. Our hashtag, Autism TikTok Circle, in a year, it has now reached 25.5 million views. Originally, I wanted to be an EA like my mom, but my dad saw my potential with my speaking and social media skills and desired to advocate for autistics around the world who didn't have a voice. He saw the influence and popularity of my social media as well as advocating for myself and others who can't speak out. He said, "What about broadcasting on social media?" The minute my dad said it, I knew he was right. Thank you for letting me speak today. It's important for me that my message goes out to anyone who will listen. Autistics can do anything we want to do. I thought I had a limit of what I could do in my future, but thanks to Janice, my parents, Erin, and this amazing app, I know I can do whatever I can set my mind to.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kiana.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I met Kiana back in August of 2021.